Serious incidents reported in aged care, such as preventable deaths, falls, are all going unnoticed. Are you surprised? Because I'm not. But it is absolutely shocking. So let's talk. Hi, welcome to H.U.G.E today. I'm Kelly Oliver, and today I'm going to be talking about incident reporting and the program Serious Incident Response Scheme and how the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission are not doing what they're supposed to be doing with those reports, and which can lead to or could have led to preventable deaths, additional falls, and all other manners of serious incidents where the trends are not being acknowledged or are not, facilities just aren't being made accountable for what's going through the system, because it has been revealed that the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission have actually been closing these serious incident response scheme reports en masse. So before we go there, I have spoken about this topic in the past, but it was more around whether complaints and serious response scheme, what they call SIRS, reports were actually being triaged in a timely manner. And while there was a report done, it stated that they weren't doing it in a timely manner. Well, it's gotten worse because now it's been revealed that there's many that haven't been reviewed at all. So we will get into that a little bit more. But first up, I want you guys to be able to have the opportunity to listen to our Prime Minister tell us exactly what he thinks of the care that's being given in aged care. And I'm sure, like myself, your eyebrows will be raised. It will become laughable, even though it is a sad situation. So let's go to that right now and have a look at that.
After a decade of neglect and a Royal Commission that was titled Neglect, a Royal Commission that they established, where they appointed the commissioners, titled its interim report Neglect. We needed to have more carers with more time to care. It's a commitment that we took to the election to restore dignity to aged care. I think that most Australians would think that nurses should be in nursing homes, that this was not a radical policy, but a sensible, common sense policy. And we said that we would get nurses back in aged care 24/7. And today, the results are in. On average, just after this began in July, there is a registered nurse on site 98% of the time. 86% of facilities already have a nurse on site 24/7. And on average, there is a registered nurse on site in aged care homes for 23.5 hours a day across the country. What that means is older Australians are getting the care that they deserve because we changed the rules to make it happen, as well as encouraging the workforce.
So, did you hear that? Older Australians are getting the care they deserve because we changed the rules to make it happen. So older Australians are getting the care they deserve. Neglect, abuse, ignored, treated like a hindrance. How is that getting the level of care they deserve? It's not. And that's why this is so laughable. So laughable in a sad way. It's delusional to think that they're getting the care that they deserve. And putting it at RN 24/7 is not going to change anything. A lot of facilities already had that in place anyway. This is not something that the government have magically done and just put them in place, because it's not the case. A lot of facilities actually had a registered nurse 24/7 already. It's more of those smaller facilities that struggled to have it, and maybe they have, been able to do it. But there's also been a lot of facilities closing down because they can't do it. So again, how does that benefit? How does that benefit the sector? It doesn't. So this RN 24/7 hasn't changed a thing, and it won't change anything. It just won't. And what we're talking about today is more the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission. They're the ones that need to pull their finger out. They're the ones that need to start doing the right thing. Because if they can't do the right thing, how are we expected for facilities to do the right thing? How can we hold them accountable if the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission, the regulator, can't even do it the right thing themselves? So let's move on to the next one. And this is where it started to come out. So journalist Rick Morton has reported on this, and I'm just going to read a couple of little paragraphs in here, and then I'm actually going to play a podcast for you all to listen to Rick himself talk about, what's been happening and what's been found. We won't go through the full podcast, but I will pull out some snippets in there for you to have a listen to. And it's horrific to think that this is actually happening. So the aged care regulator is dismissing thousands of serious incident reports regarding abuse, SA, neglect, and even deaths by ordering staff to close second-tier notifications without a proper assessment, or in some cases, any human assessment at all. Under the Serious Incident Response Scheme, which is also known as SIRS, care providers are compelled to report all Priority 1 and Priority 2 incidents to the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission, which is required by law to monitor and assess the reports to protect older Australians from harm. Alarmed watchdog staff have told the Saturday paper that pressure to keep up with the volume of incident notifications, the backlog is now more than 5,000 cases. And it's led to serious risks and trends going unnoticed because cases are being closed en masse. Now, I know when SIRS first came out, I was a facility manager in aged care when the Priority 1, Priority 2 reporting actually came into play. And the biggest thing that facility managers and clinical managers discussed was the volume. How were they going to manage the volume of what we were going to report? So what we were required to report as a Priority 1 and a Priority 2, it was going to be massive, right? It was going to be massive. But it's pretty much we report everything in aged care, right? That's what this is all about. So when it came to Priority 1, that needed to be reported within 24 hours. They rolled it out at a 2-stage process. So Priority 1s were first in April of 2021 and Priority 2s were rolled out in October 2021. Now, Priority 1s, 24 hours, but Priority 2s were 30 days. So it was a bit hard to really understand what a Priority 1, Priority 2, the difference between them were. So there were a lot of facilities that were just reporting everything. And because we knew that eventually, come October, we would have to report everything anyway. But our biggest concern was, how are they going to manage the volume of things to be reported? Well, it just goes to show they haven't been able to manage the volume. So nothing has changed with the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission. It's exactly the same. Exactly the same. They don't hold facilities accountable because they don't have the information in front of them because they're closing it without even reviewing it. Right? And then it comes down to audits as well. They go out to facilities, they complete an audit, they find all these things that are not right, all these things that need improvement, but then they reaccredit them anyway and tell them, okay, you now have a continuous improvement plan. Work on this. But where's the checkup on that? Continuous improvement plan is either a piece of paper or on a computer system where you go in and write what you're going to do. But who monitors whether it's been done? They don't. They just hand out accreditations willy-nilly. And you can go back and have a look at some of my other videos where there's been facilities that have not met the full 8 standards and they've still been accredited off that particular document, that audit, even though there's non-compliances there. It's ridiculous. And it's not getting any better. It's just not getting any better. And something has to give. The Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission need to change. The whole model in aged care needs to change. And the government need to stop saying increase wages, put a registered nurse 24/7 is going to change it. It's going to magically fix it, because it's not. And we can see that it's not. And it never ever will fix it by increasing salaries or putting an RN in 24/7. It's just not. So anyway, I'm going to move on to this podcast next. And we are going to have a listen to some points that Rick Morton has raised in this this particular podcast.
So recently I heard about a case of someone in an aged care facility whose wounds weren't being cared for properly. This is pretty much like Aged Care 101 is wound care. The residents' wounds were not being looked after properly. They developed sepsis because of an infection, and that led to the death of this elderly person. Now, as they are required to do by law, the aged care provider notified what we call the aged care regulator, which is the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission, about this incident. And it wasn't followed up. There was no proper assessment done. There was no proper investigation done. It just sat there collecting dust. And the only reason we now know about this previous issue is because there was another incident at the same nursing home, the same aged care provider, with a different resident who also had issues with their wound care, and that person also died. So what we're talking about here is we've missed a pattern of behaviour at this particular provider. And as one staff member at the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission said to me, we're talking about a death that was preventable. If someone had acted on that first report, we might have been able to intervene and talk to this provider and go, what the hell's going on here? Because we've got a problem. That didn't happen, and 2 people died, and we're just scratching the surface of the problem here.
So not only was that a preventable death, or 2 preventable deaths, the facility wasn't flagged. So if this wasn't picked up, how many more could have occurred? Because it wasn't picked up that this facility did not know how to manage wounds. You know, and that is a task for a registered nurse. Wound care is a registered nurse's job. So the 24/7 registered nurse, is that going to prevent this? We hope so. It'd be interesting to know that facility if they had a 24/7 RN previously. But they would have had RNs on during the day or at night to be able to work with those wounds, to prevent those deaths. And because the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission didn't take on board what had happened, because they didn't know, because they didn't look at the SIRS on that, then there's deaths. Now, if someone had done that in their own home, caring for a family member or somebody they knew, and this had happened to them, would they be criminally charged for that death? Who do we hold accountable? Why are people not being investigated? Why? Why are deaths allowed to occur and no one is held accountable? No one is brought forward for questioning. I don't understand. I just don't understand. Okay, so we'll go back to Rick Morton.
Tracks. And of course, once the Aged Care Quality and Safety Royal Commission was announced in late 2018, and then it began in 2019. And so in response to that Royal Commission, a serious incident response scheme was set up, and it massively broadened the categories of, incidents that had to be reported to the Aged Care Watchdog. And these were split into 2 priorities. We've got priority 1 being the most serious, that had to be notified within 24 hours. So we're talking death, hospitalisation, or any kind of medical care that's warranted because of a lapse in care, people who've gone missing, any type of neglect or abuse, sexual, physical or other. We're talking the big things, right? They have to be notified within 24 hours. Priority 2 is a second tier notification. It has to be made within 30 days. And helpfully, unhelpfully, I would say, the definition for anything that's priority 2 literally is anything that's not priority 1. And legislatively, both of those have to be assessed and triaged by the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission.
Which is not happening, right? So I'm just going to quickly duck over to this Serious Incident Response Scheme guide for aged care providers and just quickly show you, I'll just get here, what it is actually, what they call SIRS, Serious Incident Response Scheme. So SIRS, what it is all about. So the Serious Incident Response Scheme is aimed to reduce the risk of abuse and neglect of older Australians in residential services. And as I mentioned earlier, it was done in 2 parts or 2 stages. So you had the first priority ones needed to be reported as of the 1st of April 2021. And we had to have an effective, or facilities had to have an effective incident management system and report to the Commission on all reportable incidences. And then come October 1, 2021, it then was priority 2. So we had to report on the priority 2s. The introduction of SIRS places specific obligations on providers to have an effective incident management system in place and identifies the range of incidents which must be reported to the Commission. Okay, so that's where it became the responsibility of the provider to make sure that they were assessing their priority 1s and priority 2s and reporting those through to the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission. That is the requirement of the actual facilities. So then we get to here where the SIRS will promote an aged care system that supports consumers to feel safe and confident about the quality of their care. The aim of the SIRS is to reduce the risk of abuse and neglect of older Australians in residential services by building provider capacity to better identify and mitigate risks of potential harm and respond to and manage serious incidents if and when they occur. Driving learning and improvement at a system and service level to reduce the number of preventable serious incidents. And holding providers to account to provide appropriate support to consumers in the event of an incident. How can they hold them accountable if they're not reviewing them? Okay, so furthermore, we've got the Commission is the national regulator of aged care services and the primary point of contact for consumers and providers in relation to quality and safety. Complaints or concerns about the quality of care and services can be made to the Commission, and like notifications of serious incidents, complaints play an important part in helping providers to improve the quality of care and services through a continuous improvement process. The Commission is responsible for administering the SIRS and will receive serious incident notices from aged care providers. The Commission will monitor provider compliance with the SIRS requirements, including whether providers are responding appropriately and effectively to incidents to ensure the safety, health, and well-being of consumers. Well, they're not even doing that. How can they expect a facility to respond appropriately and effectively to incidents to ensure safety, health, and well-being of consumers if they're not even doing it themselves? The Commission has the power to take regulatory action where appropriate to address non-compliance with provider responsibilities regarding SIRS obligations, including issuing compliance notices for suspected non-compliance and commencing investigations. The Commission will publish information on the operation of the SIRS and support providers to meet their responsibilities, including through providing guidance and education. Again, education, guidance, not happening because they're not even reviewing them all. The Commission aren't doing their side of things. They're just really not. I just think the whole SIRS system is a waste of time, waste of money, wasted effort when they're not even following through with their own guidelines. They're just not following through with their own guidelines, and I think it's just disgusting. Okay, so I'm going to go back over to Rick Morton, and we'll have another listen for him for a few seconds.
Made to the Commission. before October. And they included really serious incidents. And so we're getting bunches, thousands of priority 2 assessments being made. And the aged care regulator says, well, we're legislatively not required to look at those yet. They closed them. They just bulk closed them.
Just bulk close them. Let's just fix it. We don't have time to do it. They're not supposed to report on it yet. Let's just bulk close them. This is at the very beginning when it was first put in place. It was quite confusing on what a priority 1 to a priority 2 was. And facilities were reporting probably more than they needed to at that time between the April and October phase. But it was better to report than not report at all, right? So for a facility, that was the best way for us to manage it. And I think for them, they needed to understand that, and they needed to come back to us and let us know. Well, facilities, I was a facility manager at the time, hence why I'm saying let us. They needed to come back and let the facilities know exactly what, a priority 1 to a priority 2 was like, and then that may have reduced some of those priority 2s going through. But just to ignore it all because the volume was too large and close them out is just disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Okay, so we'll go back to Rick again and listen to him again for a few more seconds.
They go back to do more searches, and they find that the search function that allows them to look for this particular type of closed matter, the search function has been disabled. So, as they said to me, they said, I thought, right, well, they know we're looking, and they're trying to cover their ass. And by they mean the leadership, the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission. So not only was there a mass closure of incidents, but management was clearly aware, and they were clearly trying to stop staff from sounding the alarm about it by blocking them from being even able to identify what had happened in the past.
So they were also saying that there were 15,500 incidents closed. 15,500 incident reports were closed. Bulk closure, not looked at. Copy and paste responses in there or information into these reports, but bulk closed. So 15,500 incidents that could have led to trends to prevent further incidents just closed. They don't matter. We haven't got time to do them. It doesn't matter. Let's just close them. I want to say that I'm not surprised, but I am. I am surprised. I can't believe that this is what is happening. And this is only a small part of it, a small part of it. What else is happening at the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission that we don't know about? Right? What else is happening? We already know that audits occur. Facilities don't actually meet all the standards, but they're still being accredited for 2-3 years, which means they're not going to have another review for that period of time, or another accreditation at least, audit for that period of time. And then you've got serious incident response scheme that's not working. They're not looking at everything. What else is missing? And this is only what has been leaked from staff. There could be way more that people aren't necessarily coming forward with yet. The Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission, they need to be held accountable for this. They really do. Something needs to be done. Somebody needs to go in there and they need to pull that apart. They just need to pull it apart. Okay, so we'll go back to Rick one more time and just listen to his final words on this.
We talk all the time, right, about resources pressure, and you will never be able to put enough staff in any regulator to pay attention 24/7 to every single nursing home provider, every single worker in a nursing home, every home care worker. It's physically impossible, right? No matter how well-intentioned you are. So the whole point of being a regulator that has access to this kind of information is to use that information to target your activity, to use that data to ration your resources, to point them where the most risk is. In one case, a staff member found 17 closed priority 2 notifications that involved the same subject of allegation. So in this case, It could have been an abusive nursing home worker. It could have been an abusive family member or an abusive visitor. But the same subject of that allegation in all of these closed priority 2 notifications as they were investigating in their priority 1. Now, that is valuable intelligence that was not used. And we heard about the wound care incident at the top of the episode, where prior indications of poor behaviour could have been followed up on and maybe even prevented more ill health. And in this case, as a staff member says, possibly even the death of another nursing home resident. And so we're looking at patterns analysis. It's what human beings are very good at, right? If you've got enough information, we see patterns everywhere, even when there are none. But the regulator's job is to make sure they're looking. And they're not looking. And the reason they're not looking is because they say they don't have enough staff. And that's probably true. And I think there needs to be a budget allocation. But you don't get to make it an internal assessment saying we don't have enough staff, so therefore we're not going to tell anyone that we're not looking at this stuff.
Correct. It's just like an aged care facility saying we don't have enough staff, hence that's okay for neglect, that's okay for abuse. It's not okay. It's not okay. Using short staff is not okay in any situation. If you're short staffed, then perhaps you shouldn't bring in additional new residents. Run with the residents you have. Work on getting extra staff. Use agency staff where required. Understaffed is not a good enough excuse for any of this. For bulk closing of incident reports, serious incident reports, understaffed, hence why facilities are being reviewed as neglectful. No, not good enough. Not good enough. Something needs to change. Now, that was just a snippet of Rick's report, Rick Morton's report. It can actually be found here. Everything that he mentioned in that podcast is actually written in here. So I'm going to put this link at the bottom of the video today. So if you do want to go and have a read of it, please do. It's quite, like I said, it's quite an eye-opener. And it's just absolutely unacceptable, disgusting. And to think that it's a regulator, regulator is the top of the problem. Yes, facilities are to blame for a lot. Organisations, aged care organisations are to blame for a lot. But the regulator is at the top in my eyes at the moment, because this is just unacceptable, 100% unacceptable. 100% unacceptable. And to think that our Prime Minister thinks it's okay to say older Australians are getting the care they deserve because we changed the rules to make it happen. I'm sorry. That's a load of rubbish. Absolute load of rubbish. Load of rubbish. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. So thank you for joining us today. I really do hope that you consider subscribing and liking our video and subscribing to our channel. We would really love for you to share your experiences, ask questions, and gain a better understanding of aged care through support. It's all about supporting each other and building awareness in the community and getting more people to be aware of just what is happening out there in aged care. Because our loved ones, they deserve to be cared for. They deserve to be safe, feel safe, respected, and cared for always, no matter what. So I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching. I really do appreciate you joining us. Bye.